who created the universe, who created the world, who created humans, who created all this, right? You notice how everything is a manifestation of something else. It's like something comes out of something else, symbol of something else. So when you look at, for example, the world is basically 80% water, 20% landmass. If you look at your body, it's 80% water, 20% solid. If you look at the people in the world, there's trillions of people. When you look at your body, you're made of trillions of cells. When you look at cells, cells are actually the simplest unit of life, right? That's what one cell is. Cells are sentient. They have the ability to eat, poop, breathe. They have the ability to multiply. They do basically what you do. In fact, they even have something called organelles. So you have organs, right? So it's a more simpler form of what you are individually. So when you look at these cells, that's basically people. So you think you're an individual, but you are actually a community of trillions of cells. In fact, different coordinates on the planet basically represent certain coordinates in your body. The different chakra systems of the world, you have different chakra systems in the body. The idea of Christ, right? How he died at 33, ascended after 3 days. We'll get into another video on that, but all that correlates with the human body. In fact, to make it simple, Jesus was a healer, right? And when you look at your body, it's always healing itself. In fact, you think you have traumas and wounds and all that shit that you're trying to heal from and recover from, which they tell you to connect to your inner child, and you have ancestral wounds and all that. Your body is always thriving to remember. But what gets in the way is you, right? With the way you eat, the lack of breathing, not knowing how to properly hydrate. And in fact, you buy into the system of getting vaccines and falling for medications of the pharmaceutical industry, certain environmental toxins and whatnot that keep you from actually in knowing yourself. And I'm gonna make this disclaimer. I just make content. I'm not a medical doctor, so do your own research. None of my stuff is backed up by medical science or medical claims. So do your own research and take this information how you will. When you look at DNA is basically your genetic makeup, your information bank, right? And when you look at viruses, you are a walking virus in and of itself. In fact, what you consist of will come out as words. And you can influence other people in the form of mind viruses, okay? Your energy can affect others as far as how you influence them or impact them in a positive or a negative way. This is you being a virus in and of itself. Some people could be parasitic. Some people could be fulfilling. It's all depending, right? The same way you have good bacteria and bad bacteria in the body. You see how it all correlates? It's all relative, right? When you look at the human body, okay, the DNA is embedded deep in the cells. When you look, for example, does viruses influence your DNA? And viruses have an influence on the DNA. Where do viruses come from? They come from the stars. That's how you get the word influenza. Influenza means influence of the stars. So you basically get this influence from the stars. So you're basically getting viruses falling from the sky every single day, and your body is interacting with this virus. And in fact, the more you interact with certain viruses, the more of a memory it builds toward defending itself against it. But the ones you interact with are not just building a defense of a memory of defense, it's also building a memory of what it is. So you got this theory called that you got junk DNA, and it's not junk DNA, it's just dormant. But the reason it's dormant is because generations after generations, right? You come into this planet with the idea of knowing that you think you have to get 72 vaccines as a child to be participating in the system. And what this does is that it basically introduces an mRNA. It's like a mimic of the virus. So it's a specific strain that doesn't get deep into the DNA, but what it does is it influences the outer perimeter of it. So it's kind of like what you got here. Nothing is allowed to infiltrate you because nothing can basically infringe on your what we call free will, right? So you basically have the ability to say yes or no. Same way with the cells, right? They get influenced by certain artificial strains outside of themselves, but it's foreign. And whenever it's introduced to a foreign genetic makeup or some type of information that it's not organic or of nature, it doesn't understand it. So you will basically fall into the category of the same way a person gets influenced by this inorganic system that we call the monetary system, the religious system, the education system, and it bleeds all on and on and on until up down to your spirituality. So you would think that your government is out there to help you, but in actuality, we're already been exposing a lot of the corruptions of government, right? Including with your very own president, with the pharmaceutical industry, with everything. But then we would say, well, what does religion have to do with that? But if you look at government is influenced by religion. So if you're telling me that you follow religious doctrines, but you don't trust in the government, because I got a lot of people that are saying that they don't trust in government, but they're trusting in the religious system, when in fact, the very government is influenced by the religious system. Now, are they running the government? I wouldn't know that, right? It's just basically influenced by it. Let's use that word. So when we say, do viruses influence DNA, which is basically what you are? Yeah, it does. Why are we blocking ourselves from these viruses? To prevent ourselves from getting sick. Now, you would ask, why is fluoride in the water? And they tell you that it's because it's good for your teeth. But then we read the negative effects of the fluoride in and of itself. But we still continue to interact with this water. You see what I'm saying? Because it's like you don't know any other way to sustain yourself to get the water that you would actually benefit from. Same way with food, same way with everything. But a lot of this comes down to just sitting back and seeing what you could do step by step to become a little bit more self-sufficient and self-sustaining, right? We cause this illusion of separation because of the very religions that are on the planet that mean absolutely nothing. They only have power because certain people give it value the same way they give money value, and money is just paper. Money is just paper. How much does it cost to print a dollar bill and $100 bill, right? It costs the same thing. People put 100 times more value on the paper that has 2 more zeros on it and an extra couple holograms, right? The religions all talk about the same thing. Even Jesus Christ. Let's talk about Jesus Christ. We got Mithra. We got, there's a couple of, and I'll tie the video in the description of this video, of certain religious characters that tie and correlate to the same story of Jesus Christ. Had 12 disciples, prodigal child, performed miracles, born of a virgin, died, ascended after 3 days. Same story. How we got a lot of these religious characters that correlate to the same story of Jesus Christ, right? The funny thing is that you have the same exact story happening in your body. You can look at the works of Santo Bonacci. I'll tie that video in the description of this video, where he talks about how you raise the chrism up the spinal cord, right? The whole story of Santa Claus, how this is the holy claustrum. It's a certain sacred fluid that travels down the spinal cord, hits the sacral plexus, seeds itself there, rises, and how the whole death process happens after a certain time. It all correlates. It's all relative there, right? We don't see that all these things are meshed in with each other, but everything is born out of something. Women are the manifestation of what we call feminine energy, which is the negative polarity that runs this entire planet, Mother Nature. Man is the manifestation of positive energy. They're polarities, but they're not duality. You have to engage in the polarity in order for you to even have an experience, right? So when we look at what you came out of, right? Well, think about this. You can have an imagination, because it's all in your imagination and it's all in awareness, by the way. But if you decided to create a whole reality in your mind, based, of course, on the blueprint that you know here, as far as people, places, and things, you are the beginning and you are the end. So in other words, when you see how the financial gurus tell you that when you imagine, or Neville Goddard or these people say, live in the end, Because once you imagine this, you have an emotion, that's your feminine mind. And then you also have the masculine mind. You project a reality. You're living in the end, but you have a projection, you have an imagination, you get emotionally involved with it. That's a chemistry that's having sex without actually doing physical sex. You conceive ideas, you conceive ideologies, let's say you conceive a reality, and now you're born again in a different reality. Some people can say, man, I was in a dark place in my life. I don't know what happened, bro. I was just really, really bad. And now, you know, with the glory of God, now all of a sudden, now I'm living my best life and whatnot. What happened there, right? A decision had to happen. And on top of that, a focus had to happen, and a certain discipline to make certain choices and decisions that can make that new reality happen for this individual, right? And they were born a different person. The old them died and they're born a new person, right? This was done of a virgin birth, right? You can, the old person that person was died, and they were born again a transformed person. You're here to transform your reality, but evolve from this state. So before you die, you obviously would be in your best interest to learn detachment, right? You can be in the world, but not of it. I'm not telling you to go live under a tree, be a monk or a yogi, and have no experience. Although that is a path. Everything is a path. Doesn't matter what it is. So when you look at it from this perspective, right? What you would do is you practice the art of detachment. Because if you die with this attachment, right? When you die, you have the same activity as you do when you're sleeping. There's still brain activity. There's still certain things happening, certain chemicals and elixirs still produced in your body, just in higher amounts than when you die, when you're sleeping. That's why they say that sleep is the cousin of death. So when you're dead, you obviously go through a state where you're still aware, like if you were dreaming, but you're more lucid. It's almost like a lucid dream. So this is where they say that you'll see your ancestors, you'll see your family members and whatnot. And if you're not self-aware, you'll follow the light because you never realized you were the light. So when you realize you are the light, you'll realize in that state that that's not something to follow, because you'll fall right back into the same awareness loop that you were when you were here. It's like a repetitive cycle. You wake up in the morning, you go back to sleep. You wake up in the morning, you go back to sleep until the cycle ends. You die, but you're doing it all over again. It's like everlasting life. This is why they say that when you follow religion, you're granted everlasting life, because you are granted everlasting life as a human. So you don't evolve spiritually. What you truly are. You're not the body, right? You're not the body. You're here to experience this. So there's no something is for one and not for the other. I don't judge nothing. You do whatever you got to do, believe in whatever you want to believe in. But the choice that benefits you is to become self-actualized. Yeah, go play in dirt for a little bit. Interact with the viruses of the planet. Interact with different people. Why during that time we practiced so much isolation? They didn't want you interacting with other people. Because during that time, people could have woken you up too. Other people could have enlightened you. Just being around them or even having them talk to you. It was beyond what the actual virus sickness is. And again, I'm just a content creator. I'm making a movie for you. So my disclaimer is I'm not a medical doctor. None of my stuff is backed up by facts, medical evidence, or scientific evidence. So do your own research, because this video is content for me that I journal. And if you happen to listen to it, then it's on you to listen to it and get what you want out of it. But it's not information that I'm trying to indoctrinate you in or having you try to believe. Okay? So you come into this planet, okay? You're born, your body is born. You're coming to the kingdom of heaven as a child. To enter the kingdom of heaven, you have to be childlike. You came into the world as a baby, right? But how is it that you don't remember that whole process? You only remember when you became aware, when you gained your individuality. It's almost like a dream. You have a dream. You just appeared in the dream. There may be people, places, and things that you don't even realize, that you don't recognize from this waking state. But in the dream, you intimately know them. How is that possible? Right? So then all of a sudden now, you are in the dream. So you were never born and you never die. So that means that all the people, places, and things were always in your head. When you come out here and you become aware of your reality, all these things are the same thing. They're in your head. right? The people, places, and things, the things that trigger you are not people that are actually triggering you. These are actually a signal that needs attention. That's why it's triggering you, so that you can work on it yourself. The person's not doing anything to you. They're showing you something, even though they're triggering you. Now, the whole idea of this interaction and play that you're doing here is for you to experience this reality. So the same way you manifest a reality where you're born again into a different person, you're born again here based on the imagination you had about religion, buying into the fact that you are granted everlasting life if you follow Jesus Christ. You manifest your reality, and because you keep saying that Jesus is returning and you died not experiencing Jesus' return on the planet, you're in that hope frequency. So you're not in your now moment. You're constantly in your future or in the past. Learning about what you think happened in the past influences what you think is going to happen in the future, and you're not even in your now moment. So in your now moment, you don't have any realization that Christ is here now, walking the planet as yourself, influencing the whole planet as yourself, and everything else is breathing you into existence the same way you breathe them into existence. The whole quantum model shows you that they collapse you into existence as much as you collapsing your reality into existence. In fact, you couldn't be the only man walking on the planet. You have to have interaction with other people. That would be literally, truly the singularity. There's no such thing. You would have to have other people. Matter of fact, you would cease to exist, because the cells and everything on the body are other people. The animals, the trees, everything in nature is all you. It's a reflection of you. It's all you inside out, showing you exactly what you are in real time. So you walk the planet, okay? You are the embodiment of Christ. You go through this every day. So God created the world in 7 days. You have 7 days of the week. You continue on these 4 cycles, the 4 seasons. You have 4 weeks in a month. You're doing this all the time, continuously. This is a blueprint showing you to the cycles that you keep following, the idea of what we call reincarnation. This system only exists because of people's belief in it. The reason reincarnation and all that belief exists is because of what I just said, belief. Karma, same shit. Karma is nothing but you working on the shit that's triggering you. So if your ancestors never fully got a chance to express themselves here on the planet, then if you have this burning desire to do things, but you don't do them because you're scared, and you get this worry and anxiety because that's the true you, the highest version of yourself seeking to express itself, but you don't let it express itself. So you can't continue to keep on. That's the true way to unlock your DNA. So if your ancestors are in hell or in prison, the only way to unlock them is to truly express yourself. Going to do shadow work, shed light on the negative, dark aspects of yourself. And this is actually unlocking the DNA, because you're bringing them out of hell. So all the fucking ancestors that you would have in your body that were always in feminine energy, you drag that feminine out of hell and bring it to the light, and you let it express. Because this is the only way that you can show your gifts and talents. So who created people? Who created the world? Who created all these things? Your imagination created everything. Your imagination, and everybody outside of you is you. It's the same thing. In fact, nobody's really outside of you. We're all one consciousness, expressing in different versions of each other. So the moment you become aware that you are Christ, it's like a vibrational, contagious virus that will impact others. Viruses don't mean that it's only a bad thing. It could be a good thing. There's good viruses. So if you are self-aware and self-actualized, others will be self-aware and self-actualized. That's all I got for this video. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll talk soon.